Hello and good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Veach Season. I'm your host, filling in for Brett Veach on this one, of course, Kramer Sansone, and also joining me, filling in the roles of also Brett Veach and also Rocky Magaña is very own, my good friend, my dear friend. I count him as a mentor in life. Jay Binkley, welcome to Veach Season again, Bink.
What's up, Krame Dog? Always good talking National Football League with you. It's also good talking baseball with you, but it's nice to see when you branch over to football for a few minutes.
Hey, I love football. You know that, but you already know my heart is always in baseball. And
I know.
Let's get into what's hot with Krame Dog. We'll start off right off the rip. Baseball pitchers and catchers reported today.
There you
Rejoice, everybody. We have gone through the muck, especially around here in Kansas City. We've gone through the muck of not watching any sorts of relevancy of football, with Chiefs not making the playoffs. Now, I've already turned my page with the Kansas City Royals, and I know a lot of people have too here in KC. Once the Chiefs were eliminated, already out. We're here, man, and it's beautiful out right now. And here in Missouri, so it's like it feels so good right now. I want baseball tomorrow.
Well, I'm just wondering. Our Royals insider Josh Vernier left for spring training yesterday, and I've always wondered. I mean, it's got to be a record. Like, that's got to be the warmest temperature he's ever left. Because usually when he goes to spring training, it's icy, there's snow on the ground, it sucks, it's cold.
Right.
But it was like, what, 77 yesterday? That hasn't been the warmest that he ever left for Arizona.
He probably, honestly, I bet it wasn't as nice as it was when he got to Arizona. It still looked beautiful today. The videos that he was already posting on the socials looked incredible.
They're going to have better weather than us.
And you know that bald head of his is going to get burnt immediately here soon. But, man, baseball's here. I know for my St. Louis Cardinals, it's not going to be a good season by any means. But you know what's going to be a season to be had to see what the hell's going on there. But, hey, the Royals should be good this year. I think they're above 500 team. They're gonna do well.
Well, they will, and I look at this division, and clearly Detroit's still going to be. They're bringing in 43-year-old Justin Verlander. That's no big deal, but it's Framber Valdez getting his money, and of course Skubal getting the money. But I'll say this: and you play teams 13 times in the division now since they changed it to where you play everybody else. Mm-hmm. But the Royals were 10-3 against the White Sox last year, and they were 12-1 against them, I think, the year before. So they found a team to beat up on. That makes a difference, Krame Dog. You know that when you're like 11 games over 500 against a team, and then just 7 games over a team, that's the difference between making the playoffs and not. The problem is the White Sox are spending money, and they've spent some money in free agency. That's going to be a better team. I never know about the Twins. They're either good one year, they're bad the next. Good one year, bad the next. Cleveland, they're a wild card. But I'll say this: I do feel that the one team they were able to, get all those positive wins against, being the Chicago White Sox, going to be a tougher deal this year.
I think the gap the White Sox have, it's not like how it was 2 years ago. They've actually went out and spent money. That Murakami guy, he's going to hit tanks. It's going to be so much fun watching him, especially with the fences going to be brought in at Kauffman. That also means the opposing team's going to hit more home runs as well.
Sure.
Let's not forget about that. But man, he's going to be murdering baseballs like he did in Japan.
I'm sure the pitching staff of the Royals is like, okay, that was the strength. Like, the strength of this team was the pitching staff.
It's true.
Matter of fact, with FanDuel and stuff like that last year, that's all I did was the pitchers. I'm like, I'm not going hitting at all. And I won it last year. And I was dead last the year before. And I'm like, I'm going only pitching and Noah Cameron strikeouts. If it's +5, I'm going with that. But the strength of this team is the pitching staff. I know the hitters probably like it, but the pitchers probably like, yeah, come on, man. What are we doing here?
Yeah, I'm curious, Bink. How much tape have you watched of post college football season being over with?
Some, but it's one of those deals that when you look at mocks and people getting into it, with Kristen Ocero and I on Character Concerns, that draft podcast we don't just pick it up like in February. We don't pick it up in January, or you don't pick it up just a couple weeks after the draft. We do it all year. And so we do it after the draft. We do it throughout the summer during OTAs. We do it in July. We do it in August. We do it all the way through college football season, where you look at matchups. Like when you look at, Miami, Miami's playing Notre Dame this weekend. This is who to watch for. This is the corners to watch. Or Jeremiah Love, because that was a big name at the beginning of the year. How's he going to do? Or Jadarian Price, how's he going to do against Miami Hurricanes defense? So we followed these guys all year. So yeah, there's some tape. Surely you've gone back, or I've gone back and watched certain individuals when I think that the Chiefs that could be drafted by the Chiefs. But yeah, but just that watching September and October and November, we love college football, so you get to see a lot of these prospects, and we named them out. Like we would look forward to every weekend and think about the good matchups you can see in college football, kind of with the draft in mind for the Kansas City Chiefs. And then all of a sudden, when they were in the teens drafting, there's a little more attention paid because different guys.
Oh, yeah.
Like you're not at the end of the round, so the Reuben Baines of the world, the Jeremiah Loves, the Mekhi Lemons, these names are starting to become more tangible. And you think there's going to be at least 2 quarterbacks going before the Chiefs, which would have helped. Then all of a sudden they finish, in the 9th spot. And unfortunately, there's just one quarterback that's, taking a spot in front of it. Helps always, if you have 2 or 3. So then you're actually, instead of drafting 9th, you're really drafting like 5th. As far as the 5th best players that are quarterbacks. But unfortunately, Dante Moore went back to Oregon, so just one probably goes in front of the Chiefs.
So I've been in camp now every single week. How I watch tape is by I go by running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, and I go down off the list and see who I actually like and watch, and I put them into a box that yes, there was a good guys, these are not so good guys. But since the Chiefs are the 9th spot right now, I've been flirting with this entire time of going through mocks and seeing this wouldn't be a bad decision if somehow the Chiefs do trade back, because I think with Dante Moore not declaring for the draft kind of screwed the Chiefs a little bit out on possibly getting a better defensive guy, maybe a better offensive guy weapon wise of them sitting at number 9. I've been toeing the rubber of they should probably trade back now or trade up in order to get the guy that they truly want. I just don't think that the talent at number 9 is going to be great for the Kansas City Chiefs.
Well, you could, but is there a big enough need for another team to jump up, or will they have the same mindset? Mm-hmm. Just staying there, picking 19th or 20th and getting a Denzel Boston. Maybe you're not, overloaded on getting a Mekhi Lemon or Cardinal Tate. And here's the one thing is figuring out what's better. The Chiefs sitting there with the 40th pick, that second wave. Is the second wave of corners, edge, better than the second wave of receivers? And that's what teams are going to have to figure out, meaning, do we want a Chris Brazzell from Tennessee? Do we value him just as much as a Jordan Tyson? Or do we value a Denzel Boston just as much as a Cardinal Tate? And as far as edge is concerned, more out of Michigan, or, you look at these second-tier edge rushers, Zion Young, are you looking at that and you're saying, all right, we feel that at 40, we can get a better edge than we could at receiver at that point. And we think the good position to go ahead and get is wide receiver, edge, whatever direction they're saying. But I think it comes down to that, because I don't know if you're going to have a ton of trade partners when everybody's kind of mixed in there. And most GMs, the most important question they'll ever be asked during those pre-draft press conferences is how many first-round grades do you have? Because that's something they might say and willing to say. Obviously, they're not going to tell you which direction they're going to pick, and everything's a smokescreen. But a lot of GMs will say, this year we have a grade on 13 or 14, players, or 13 through 18 players. Like the draft that was in Kansas City, there wasn't as many as drafts before in Kansas City, where sometimes you'd see, first round grades on at least 20 guys, meaning basically picks 21 on through the first round are essentially, in their minds, second-round picks. They're second-round picks with that 5th year option, which is huge. But I know Trey McDuffie was in that situation. When he was drafted, he kept sliding and sliding. The Chiefs had a first-round grade on him. And then he got to the territory and said, okay, we need to trade up and get this guy, because we had a first-round grade on this guy, and now we're going to get him much later than we thought. So I'm always interested in how many first-round grades GMs have on players. You could be sitting in a situation, this draft, 14, 15 guys with first round grades. Obviously, the 2027 draft in DC next year, it's just loaded, man. I mean, It's absolutely loaded. Then you have to figure out and say, all right, Cardinal Tate and Mekhi Lemon, where would they be next year? Where would they be in next year? Like right now, they're 1 and 2, probably his best receivers. Would they be 4 and 5 next year? With Jeremiah Smith from Ohio State that could go number 1 overall, at wide receiver in that draft. Just have to make the decision which direction to go. And, the record for wide receivers in the first round is 7, 2004 and 2024, 7 receivers taken. I don't think there's going to be that many this year, 4 to 5 maybe. But are teams taking them out of desperation, or are they taking them because they're good? And that's the decision they have to make.
Oh, I think it's desperation. I don't think this draft class is the draft classes that we've been talking about years and years and years that we've been covering this. And since I've been covering it with you, this seems like the
I think it's the same way with linemen, edges, everybody. I think it's not just wide receivers. I think it's pretty thin with some of the edges that you can grab in offensive linemen, because the best offensive linemen are right tackles.
Yeah, well, I mean, unfortunately for the Kansas City Chiefs, they might looking for a right tackle, and they could find one in the first round, honestly. But no, I think with NIL right now in college football, not many talented players are wanting to opt to go to the NFL right now, because if they're a late second round draft pick, I can make more money playing, and signing holding up a Wendy's t-shirt at my college and make money that way.
It's a good point, because 2021, there was 163 special availability in or underclassmen that went into the draft. We've only got about 63 this year.
That's crazy.
I think that special availability, I mean, people spent 3 years, 3 years removed from high school football, or guys that already got the degree, before, but, qualify as underclassmen and still have eligibility left. So we basically cut it by 54%.
Yeah.
That was in the draft in 2021. We've seen it, like Dante Moore. He decides to go back to Oregon. That's a classic example, which is weird because, he was probably looking at $54 million guaranteed had he gone to the NFL draft.
Yeah, because he would have he was the second overall pick. So there's no reason Fernando Mendoza wouldn't be the first overall pick, which I cannot wait. Cannot wait.
Jet.
I cannot wait for Fernando Mendoza to be in a Las Vegas Raiders uniform, and that's where all the mocks right now have been setting the Raiders taking the first overall pick with Fernando Mendoza, and I hope that stays, and I hope that does happen, because the last time we picked the first round quarterback, it was Jamarcus Russell, and oh boy, this better bury.
Have you ever seen a weirder situation than Week 1 when the Raiders played in New England? You have one team that was in the Super Bowl, and the other one's picking first in the NFL draft. And the team picking first actually won the road game in New England. That just shows you how crazy Week 1 is in the NFL. But you can't get any further from teams picking first in the draft and the other team in the Super Bowl when that team picking first went on the road and beat that team in their home place. That's crazy.
You know what? I thought that I drank that Kool-Aid after that game too. I drank that Geno Smith, that Pete Carroll Kool-Aid that was all super watered down and very old and outdated, especially how they ran ran their plays this past offense for them. It was bad. Like, I'm just happy.
Don't be fooled by Week 1, Kramer. It's like baseball. Don't be fooled by Game 1.
You know what? I was fooled. Definitely was fooled. But there's also a lot of fools out there when it comes to mocking or doing some mock drafts. And we'll do some Mockers Are Us, a brand new segment right here on Veach season. As we're going to go around 4 or 5 of the mock draft experts. Like, first one we're going to go off is Chad Ryder. That's how you
Ryder, yeah.
We'll go off him.
He does a real good job.
No, he does. I always follow him every single time. Hell, you've talked to him over the phone before discussing things. He does have the Kansas City Chiefs in the first round taking the offensive tackle to Alabama, Caden Proctor.
This is a reach too. This is because Caden Proctor's not one of those names you see. Now, keep in mind, we monitor those, like the top 2, like mock draft database. They take every mock that's put out. And so you can see the dates that they're put out. Yeah. And you can see what the marks. So we'll go 25 at a time, maybe at the beginning of the week and towards the end of the week, and look for trends. And obviously Kenyon Sadiq, the tight end of Oregon, was heavily on that list, back during the season. And then it kind of transitioned to a lot of it's still a majority of Jeremiah Love. That's still a lot of one. We saw Caleb Banks start to show up a lot after the Senior Bowl, practice and the Senior Bowl game. Keldrick Falk is a name that's been showing up lately on cheap mocks.
Do you like?
But I haven't seen a Caden Proctor, because we're looking. Most people have him, in the 20s.
I mean, he's a big boy, 6'7", 366. I mean, he'd be your right tackle. He wouldn't be your left.
He is. He's a stud. I mean, he's a stud. But that's been the first guy I've really seen, take Caden Proctor. So that was interesting. But a lot of Reuben Baines, some Carnell Tates mixed in. But honestly, the number one guy has been Jeremiah Love or Reuben Bain.
And I'm in the camp of not Ruben Bain anymore, and who has this one? Daniel Jeremiah in his most recent one, he had Ruben Bain falling to the Chiefs at 9. I'm not in camp of Ruben Bain anymore. After we had a great conversation about him already, you're right. He only shows up whenever he feels like it. Like when what am I trying to get at here? Whenever the night of the game, the big game, the national title game, incredible. What did he do for me the other games in order for them to get there? Really, not much.
A&M gave me a good game. He didn't do anything in the semifinal game.
Yeah, no.
And then you go just like we said, we go through week 3 through week 10. He had a stretch there where he had 1.5 sack. That was it. I mean, he had like a 4-game stretch without any. He went 6 weeks with only half a sack. And, you're coming from the same defensive line that Akeem Mesidor's on that actually led Miami in sacks. And it's always risky when you have 2 first-round edges and you grab one of them, because how much attention were they paying to Ruben Bain and how much attention were they paying to Mesidor? And that's not even talking about the measurables like arm length and stuff like that.
Right.
But it is real. I mean, it is real. I mean, just arm length does matter. I know Will Campbell's taken a lot of that arm length for the opposite side for playing left tackle. And he's getting a lot of credit. He gave up 14 pressures in the Super Bowl. And I know he had the knee injury before, and some tackles that played in the NFL, they'll say no, it's the punch he has and things like that. But that's always been the knock on Will. Like through the draft was the shorter arms. Like he'd be probably a better guard. But they're not going to put him there. They're going to keep him at tackle. So I don't know if the short arms played into all the pressures he gave up. Certainly it didn't probably help, but that doesn't matter. And Ruben Bain, he's got shorter arms for the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, you're talking a guy, 30 or 31. Now, it's not been officially measured. So he skipped the Senior Bowl, which he was invited to, and they do measure some stuff at the Senior Bowl. He wasn't there, so maybe he'll get measured at the Combine. And, once you're measured, I mean, the way these things work, you think they're short arm, they show up and it's 33-inch arms.
Oh, yeah.
And it's much better than you think.
Sometimes
or pro day,
and their nose grows like Pinocchio.
Or the pro day where all of a sudden quarterbacks' hands grow size from the combine to the pro day. It's crazy how these things work, man.
And I mean, we can tell how quarterbacks like Kenny Pickett, for instance, he needs gloves because he cannot wrap his hand all the way around that thing, which is just nuts. Other mock drafters on mockers are Smell Kiper, Jeremiah Love. He has the Chiefs taking him at 9, staying there. I don't think you should go running back this high, especially for the Chiefs. You have more needs that you have to do. And Jeremiah Love, he's a great story. He's a great kid. He's a workhorse, but he's just not for the Kansas City Chiefs.
He's outstanding. I mean, just his physical ability and what he does, but his backup, Jadarian. I mean, again, I'll bring up that Miami game. That was the most important game for Notre Dame this year. It's the one game that kept them out of the playoffs because they lost that game to Miami. He had only 33 yards. I think Price had like 47 yards or something. His backup had more yards than him. The following week, they played Texas A&M, but it was a home game. But he had 94 yards rushing, so he didn't go over 100 in the Miami game and the A&M game. Yeah, he had a great game against USC. Their whole backfield did, and great games against Purdue. But what about the big games? What about the playoff teams? Miami, A&M were in the college football playoffs. What did you do? Now, sometimes you just don't want to always look at that, but I think who a guy plays does matter. Yeah, I think when you're looking at a really good competition to find out what he does, he'll be a good pro. I have no doubt. I mean, he'll probably lead the NFL in rushing at some point. But I'll say this, Kramer, out of the top 10 running backs in the NFL this year, only 4 were first-round picks. Of the top 10 running backs in the NFL, only 4 made the playoffs. So it's not always one of those, magical buttons. I'll even say this, too, that everybody wants an edge. That out of the top 10 teams in sacks this year, only 5 made the playoffs. Of the teams that led the NFL in sacks, only 5 made the playoffs. Nobody in the top 7 made the Super Bowl. The Seahawks were 8th. The Patriots were tied with the Chiefs back in the 20s, 21st, 22nd, with 35 sacks. So it's not the end-all, be-all to what we think. And I know that the Seahawks, people are looking at defense. They did have a great defense. Scoring defense, which is the most important stat, they were better than they were in total defense. But I'll remind people, the Chiefs were 6th in scoring defense. They were first. But I'll say this too. If they expose New England Patriots offensive line, everybody exposed that line. They gave up 21 sacks. Drake May was sacked 21 times in the postseason. They gave in the playoffs, they gave up 5 sacks, 5 sacks, 5 sacks, 6 sacks. So they were exposed. And then the Seahawks, they played the Rams the week before, and they gave up almost 500 yards. And Stafford had 374 yards in that game. He was crazy good, but they almost gave up 500 yards in that game. Yeah, it was a good defense all year. We saw Denver playing good defense all year, but they couldn't stop Buffalo. Buffalo was turning the football over, didn't force one punt, but they weren't good that day.
Yeah, it's staggering because the fact that New England got there, because we already know this, their schedule, and they survived and advanced every single week throughout the playoffs. That just happened. But no, you're not wrong. I made some money on the Super Bowl by doing live bets. I bet a sack each drive that the Patriots would give up. I made some coin during the Super Bowl. It was nice.
Well, the Patriots should have had more sacks on Darnold, but it didn't finish. Again, there's a big difference between pressure and then actually finishing. And I know we look at pressure stats and think about a quarterback being pressured. That's great. But it also matters if you bring that player down, because I've seen plenty of pressures from the Kansas City Chiefs, but I also see that quarterback escaping pressure and delivering the football 15 yards downfield. That's a big difference.
Hey, let's go over one more first-round mock draft. This one's from Todd McShay. He has Carnell Tate, Ohio State's wide receiver, at the number 9 spot for the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't necessarily hate it. I don't necessarily love it. But if it's going to be a guy that could be a difference maker that's not an actual copy, paste, and repeat of the wide receivers they currently have on roster right now, I'm all for it.
I like Carnell Tate a lot. He was the guy that we had at the first mock. We did a 3-rounder, and we had Carnell Tate. There was a couple reasons why. One, he has the best hands in the draft. He also runs the best routes. I mean, he didn't put up some numbers, and there's a problem too. He was on the same receiving group as Jeremiah Smith, who's by far and away the best receiver in the country. You have to take that into account. We liked Mekhi Lemon in the second one we did. He only has 3 drops in his last 175 targets. A little bit shorter. He's shorter than Carnell Tate comes in at 5'11", but he plays bigger. That's one of the things, Tyreek Hill always played bigger than his size. And some guys play smaller, like MVS was 6'4", but he played a lot smaller. So finding guys that played bigger was huge. I do like Carnell Tate, and I think McShay was looking around, and I think in his exercise, maybe Reuben Bain was already taken at that point, so I don't know if he would have necessarily gone Carnell Tate. I will say this. McShay has been one of the most active or accurate mock drafters, because they actually keep stats for this. Believe it or not, they do. Matthew Friedman, Fantasy Life, the last 5 years has been the most accurate. But McShay is usually really accurate as well with his mock drafts. But I understand the receiver, and I look at this. And here's the thing, Kramer, with wide receivers, because I'm team receiver in the first round, is when you have a quarterback that's an average quarterback, you build up a great defense around him. You take a CJ Stroud and you build up a great defense around him. But if you have an elite quarterback, you let him win the games, and you feed that elite quarterback weapons they need, because, 5 years after Mahomes retires, you're going to sit back and go, man, we drafted this edge for Mahomes. Why didn't we draft him a receiver? Why didn't we get him somebody to catch the football that could beat man coverage? If you have an average quarterback, you bolster that defense. You give a great defense to go out there each and every week to keep you in games or to win games. But if you have an elite level quarterback, man, if you give him the weapons to succeed, you let him go out and win those games. I just want to see the Chiefs, because again, if they decide not to keep Rashee Rice and they go a different direction, this is 4th year, so his contract would be done. True. And who's going to be the receivers for this team in the future? You keep bringing back a Tyquan Thornton. You're going to do like the Chargers did last year and bring in a Keenan Allen type. I mean, what are you going to do? And that's why I always say, get weapons. And the Chiefs have had this theory lately, and it's not a great theory, although they're winning. So it's hard to argue what they're doing, because the last 5 years, Veach has the second most guys still on the roster from the draft. Is what do you do as far as these receivers are concerned? Because they throw one dart. Like Sky Moore, it was one dart. Yep. Rashee Rice, they threw one dart. Jalen Royals, even though they knew there was going to be a suspension, the Rashee Rice, they just threw one dart. But see, when you throw multiple darts, that's how you end up with Puka. Puka was the fifth round selection of the Rams. They had 4 fifth-round selections when Puka was drafted, and he was the 4th of those fifth-round selections. But you can bring in receivers like Juwan Jennings, a guy from San Francisco. A lot of people want as a free agent. He was a 7th-round pick. So it's not always going to work out when you throw a dart in the 4th or 5th round, a wide receiver. But sometimes it does, man. But the Chiefs, they're not getting that point because they're throwing one dart.
Yeah, I look at what the Texans did this past year. Jalen Noel and Jaden Higgins, both in the third round, and I think both those guys have a future to be catching catching passes from C.J. Stroud, and I think that's what the Chiefs need to do as well. Like they need to just instead of one, get a couple of guys, especially in that pass catching room, especially with the new wide receivers coach. Get them as much young guys as possible to help learn instantly and quickly.
Get Mahomes weapons because we've seen it. And listen, they've gone to the Super Bowl both ways. They've gone to the Super Bowl without receivers, without household names. But imagine if they were household names. Imagine if Mahomes had something like Manning did with Reggie Wayne and Marvin Harrison.
Yeah.
Like imagine an elite quarterback actually having weapons. And they rely a lot on Kelsey. You know, and he hadn't made the 100% decision in which way he's going to go. It's probably looking more like he's going to come back. But, you know, here's a 36-year-old tight end that's led your team in yards and receptions the last 2 years. Actually, the last decade's either been him or Tyreek Hill that led this team in yards. So that is a tough pill to swallow. And guys that you think, when you look at the roster and you think of what goes on in St. Joe, like I always call them the St. Joe Chiefs. They look good, right? A couple years ago when Hollywood Brown and Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy doing their deal, then all of a sudden the season starts and Hollywood Brown's hurt in against the Jaguars in the preseason. And you're sitting there going, oh, man, who do we have? And then this year, you know, you go to the St. Joe Chiefs, you have Rashee Rice suspended for the first 6. Xavier Worthy gets hurt on play 3. Who's out for 3 games, and all of a sudden you're sitting there and you're saying, come on up, Tyquan Thornton, let's see what you got. So, I just take multiple darts at receivers.
Who are 3 guys that you can see the Chiefs taking at number 9?
Well, it really depends if there's a run. I do honestly think Ruben Bain and Bailey will be gone, like I do. Like, sitting where they're sitting, I think Mekhi Lemon could be an option. Cardell Tate, it's looking like he could go earlier in the Chiefs, but here's the one thing to always keep in mind. Like, they haven't had the combine yet. That's in 2 weeks. You know, you haven't had the combine. We haven't had free agency, which the legal tampering is March 9th through 11th. So let's see what they do. For instance, like running back. If they went out and spent big money to bring in Breece Hall, right? Then you might not necessarily draft a running back in the first 3 rounds. But if you go out there and get like a second-tier guy like a Tyler Algier, and then you look and say, all right, you got Brashard in the running back room. You got Tyler Algier. Then you would draft somebody. We like Emmett Johnson in the 3rd round from Nebraska. But sit there at 9. I think Mekhi Lemon is certainly an option for the Chiefs. And, you know, could they go interior defensive line? They absolutely could. If they fall in love with the Caleb Banks or having a Keldrick Falk, you know, kind of playing that defensive end position for the Kansas City Chiefs, I could see him going that direction too.
So you like Keldrick Falk? Because I've been trying to persuade Rocky into liking him, and he's like, no, I'm out. Not going to do it. Not going to tender the option for it. I'm out. So I'm curious what your thoughts are.
I like him. He's younger, and he'll play more that, you know, prototypical defensive end type rather than edge. But he can play an edge, too, because he's only 21. I mean, this guy, you know, the weapons and the moves, and obviously having Chris Jones on the same team to teach him things going forward. And they have Omar Norman Lott coming back next year, which is huge for the interior part of that defense. So that was their 2nd round pick last year. Hopefully a healthy O&L makes a big difference for this team this year, but we'll see what direction they go. But, you know, clearly it's probably not going to be the guys that you think of right now because, like I said, things are going to shuffle once they go to the combine, and people look at arm length. They actually look at the height that you were measured. I mean, you're coming in at 6'3" at your college. They measure you at 6'1". I mean, this stuff happens because you get a little home cooking on your roster, and then they measure you, and it's much different than you thought. Like maybe say Diego Pavia wasn't listed as 5'9" on his Vanderbilt rosters.
I don't think he's 5'9", if I'm being honest.
He's fun to watch. He's a hell of a player to watch, and height doesn't matter. But the dude was fun. I'll give him that. He was fun to watch.
The 3 guys I do like, though, Caleb Downs, safety out of Ohio State. I like TJ Parker out of Clemson. I think he's a freight train. And Spencer Fano, the right tackle out of Utah. I think he's there at 9. I think the Chiefs take him.
As far as linemen, I really like him. Spencer Fano. But I'll tell you, you hit on something with Caleb Downs because honestly, I think you can make an argument he's the best player in the draft.
Yes.
Like he's that good. He's the Kyle Hamilton type. He can also do a lot of things like return the football he doesn't get credit for. I would really like that pick for the Chiefs because it makes a lot of sense, but there's too many other things they need. I'm staying on receiver, edge, running back. That's the top 3 in that order. And I could be convinced, flip-flop, the edge and wide receiver. But at this point, I'd still stick wide receiver, then edge. If you thought that second tier, like I said, of edges could be viable, go that direction. But Caleb Downs, this guy, when he's Alabama, was a stud, transferred to Ohio State, just a stud. But yeah, I'm with you on Caleb. He's incredible talent.
All right, it wouldn't be a Veach season if I didn't ask you this question. Bink, are you in or out on sex robots that are 92% humanoid?
I'm out.
You're out?
But you wouldn't have to program them for Valentine's Day, would you?
I think it's already programmed set for you. But for a cheap $173,000, you can have your very own sex robot, man.
Well, first of all, I don't have that kind of money.
It walks.
I don't have that kind of money, man.
It talks with you. It might bake you cookies if you ask it to politely.
I like to stay single for $173,000. I just stay single at this point.
Amen to that, brother. That's funny.
It's tough to keep a girlfriend during football season. It makes it tough.
Wouldn't that person? That robot wouldn't steal your pizza cutter either.
No, that's true. It's very true, Frank.
All right, Vic. Hey, I appreciate you taking your time out of your Tuesday night joining me on Veach Season, my man. We at some point you're going to be on here with Rocky and I, and then I just want to sit back and listen to you guys go at it because I think you guys have a lot in common and also a lot of guys that he does not like that you mentioned tonight that you enjoy. So I think it'd be fun.
Let's have some fun.
All right, buddy. Hey, you take care, and that will do it for this edition on Veach Season, everybody. You have a good night.
Take care, my friend.
And cheers, everybody.